very difficult time articulating myself this evening. You see, in my head, I know exactly what it is I want to say, but somehow it's getting lost in translation. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm just going to talk until I feel satisfied with how I've conducted myself. I'll preface this with saying that while I'm at work, I like to listen to debates. I listen to a lot of debates online. I download them, on a wide variety of topics. But my favorite topic is always religion. So I'm listening to a group of people. There are three Christians and then there are three atheists. And they are arguing their points back and forth. Now, I'm not going to get into depth with, what was discussed in the topic of conversation, but I brought that up because as I was listening to it, I was reminded of something that my father used to do. You see, when I was a kid, my father would tell me to be good. He didn't tell me be good and you'll get a reward. He didn't say be good or I'll spank you. He just said be good. And I was too young to fully appreciate that he was attempting to teach me critical thinking. It was from a logical standpoint that he was trying to base this on. He would say, be good. Sometimes me being good meant I got to stay up late with him and I could watch an episode of Star Trek. And that was our thing, man. I used to love, we'd sit up and I'd have a juice box or something and I'd just sit next to him and we'd watch Captain Kirk overact in this ship made out of cardboard and Christmas lights. It was sad, but it was the 70s, early 80s, man. So watching Star Trek was me and my father's thing. Sometimes it meant when he got paid, I'd get to go to Toys R Us and I'd get to pick out a new G.I. Joe or Transformers. It's like, look, G.I. Joe's cost like $3. It was not a big deal. But to me, it was like, yeah, I got a new one to add to my collection. Or sometimes it was just as simple as a cookie. Sometimes me being good meant I get to have a cookie. But what's important to note there and why I'm bringing it up is that he always said be good, but he never said why. Because if he were to say be good and you'll get a cookie, well, now I'm being good so I can have a cookie. Now I'm not doing what I was told for the sake of it's the right thing to do. I'm doing what I'm told, waiting for a reward to come. And you would never know if I was doing it for the sake of being good or just doing it because I wanted a damn cookie. Likewise, he never said be good or I'll spank you, because now I'm just being good for the sake of trying to avoid a punishment. I have been told that something undesirable will happen if I do this. So it's really eliminating choice and it's eliminating the thought. So now I'm just sitting here in fear that if I were to get up, if I were to move, if I were to do the thing that he asked me not to do, there would be a punishment of some kind. That never happened. Now, yes, if I didn't do what I was told, sometimes there was a punishment. Sometimes I'd get another warning. He said, you sit down. And I go, oh, now he's upset. Or sometimes he would have to pop me and I'd have to sit back down. But I never did things because I was afraid of a consequence or I was looking for a reward. What I'm trying to say here, and this is probably most important, is that my father never taught me what to think. He taught me how to think. At a very young age, and I was too young to fully appreciate it. And even now, I'm 40, 41, almost 42, wow. But I'm now learning that it's more important to have critical thinking. For every choice, there's a consequence. Nothing I do is out of fear. Nothing I do is for a reward. I go to work every day, not because I fear what would happen if I didn't, because there are things that I want, and here are the things that I need to achieve that. That's it. I could sit down and I could eat 4 hamburgers and it would taste good, but I know the consequence is my stomach would hurt and I'd probably be sick and I might miss a day of work, which means there's less things that I get to do that I would like to have. So I was taught critical thinking, and it's honestly the single greatest gift my father ever gave me. And I am proud to say that I have given that to my son. See, I never inflicted what Kari, this is how you should think. This is what you should believe. I never did that. If you want to relate it to religion, my father would give me books about Western philosophies. He said, hey, read up on this Buddha and tell me what you think of it. Hey, read this Eastern philosophy and tell me what you think of it. He was never like, yes, so let's open your Bibles and let's turn to this page and let's recite. It was always, hey, what'd you think about the thing that I gave you that I read? And then we would have an intelligent conversation, and sometimes we didn't mesh. Sometimes I didn't agree with some of the things that he said. Maybe it was out of ignorance. Maybe it was because he had a broader perspective because he was an adult and at this point I was a teenager. But whatever it was, I was never told, well, you're wrong. I'm older. You're just going to have to trust me that I'm right. Do this. And I always appreciated that. Now, in the interest of honesty and in full disclosure, when my father got remarried, he married a woman who was, by all definition, Baptist. And because she took her children to church, we were in turn forced to go to church with her. But he never said, you sit there and you learn the word. You better learn it because this is right. He knew we had to go, but we never really had conversations about it. We didn't discuss it. He didn't say, so what'd you learn today? It was just, this is something you have to do. Just fucking suck it up and do it. Honestly, I didn't understand why I had to go, and it really defeated the purpose. If the idea was to get me to go and learn something, I would just go and fall asleep. I would purposely stay up late the night before, so I knew I would be sleepy when it was time to go. So I didn't pick up much because again, I felt as though I was in a place where I was being told, here's what you need to think. And I used to think that was arrogance. I used to think, as I'm having this conversation with you now, I thought that this was arrogance, and I thought it was like I do things in my own way and in my own terms and on my own time. But now, as I'm sitting here and having this talk with you, I realize that doesn't come from a place of arrogance. It comes from a place of critical thinking. I think for myself. I do what I think is right for myself. I do it in my own time. Oh, there's something going on out there. No? Okay. This is just how I was raised to do things. I think for myself. I do for myself. I accept whatever comes as a result. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a reward. Sometimes it's a negative consequence. And then if you think in terms of positive or negative, what is positive or negative? Rather than desirable and undesirable, like desire. I want to eat 4 hamburgers. So that sounds good, right? So I ate 4 hamburgers. Yay. But the undesirable is the getting sick part. So what do? I choose to only eat 1 hamburger and stretch those 4 hamburgers out over 4 days. So now I get all the rewards of 4 hamburgers without getting sick. It's just in my own way, in my own terms, on my own time. I've never liked being told what to think because my parents never told me what to think. My father told me to think. That was it. Sometimes my thinking was flawed. I have no problem telling you that me and my mantra have gotten myself into trouble many times. Hell, I was homeless because of my mantra once. And I slept in a high school gym over a summer vacation, huddled up under the bleachers with my son. Cold. But that's a consequence. I still did it in my own way. I made a decision based on what I wanted, and then these things happened. And then I had to work a way out of that. The point I'm trying to make is the greatest gift my father ever gave me was to teach me how to think. And hopefully I passed it along to my son. We have many conversations, and they're very reminiscent of the conversations that I used to have with my father, and I like to think that I go a step beyond because I take a very active interest in what Kari thinks and what Kari does. Kari and I, while we are 2 very different people, we are actually very much alike. And I love bouncing ideas off him, and I love hearing what he has to say, and I love hearing his worldview. If you were to ask him, he's an agnostic Buddhist. And he's a nihilist who believes in the universe is absolutely nothing. Nobody's here on purpose. Everybody's going to die. Nothing fucking matters. But also, I'm going to do the right thing while I'm here. And some of his views I share, some of them I don't. But never in our conversations if I say, well, you're wrong. Because it's him doing it in his own way, on his own terms, in his own time. He was told how to think, not what to think. And I think that is what prepared him most for what the world will have to offer him. Like, his way of thinking will get him in trouble. I don't necessarily agree with everything he does. I don't necessarily agree with all the things that he enjoys, but I don't have to. Who am I to tell him what he should think? Who am I to tell him how he should act and how he should feel about certain things and certain people? That's up to him. He's a person. And with every choice, there's a consequence. So he knows that by choosing one thing, he has to let go of another. That's life. But I never told him, here's the thing you need to hold on. You need this. This is for you. Nothing else. Never. I let him decide for himself what was important. I let him come up with his own morals and his own values. And I'm happy to say he ain't murdered nobody. I'm happy to say he don't have a bunch of kids running around. He's making choices that are best for him. But at the same time, I didn't tell him what those choices were. I'm very proud of my son. How this turned from me telling you about my father to me being proud of my son, I don't know. Like, it's so funny. Oh, there's something going on again. Like, I used to really clown my father for some of the choices that he made. And then I became an adult and I started making those same choices. And I realized that, man, that was a tough call for you. So now I see that in my son. I see him, and he's questioned some of my decisions in the past. And he was like, why would you do that? That was fucking dumb. And with any luck in the future, when he's a full grown adult and he's out there doing it for himself, he'll look back and he'll say, I didn't agree with that choice, but I understand why you did it. And that's all you can really ask for as a father. That's all you can really ask for as a person. That's important to me. It's real important to me that he be allowed to make those choices for himself the way I was given the choice to make choices for myself. And sometimes my father would say be good and I wasn't, and I'd get my ass beat. Sometimes he would say be good and I was, and he would go, oh, good job. But then there were other times when I got to stay up and watch Star Trek, or I got a cookie. But I never did it for the cookie. That's important. I had a very privileged childhood. As I sit here and I think about it, I was saying the other day how sometimes my videos are fluff and filler. This is one of those where I didn't realize how fulfilled and how privileged my life was. I mean, yes, there were times where we didn't have much, but I was never told, do this, be that. It was always, okay, what do you want to do? And if I did something and moved forward, I got the rewards for that. Like, I dropped out of high school, but yeah, and nobody like jumped on me about it. They were like, oh, you probably shouldn't have done that, but this is all you. But what was the result of that? I saw what not having the high school diploma did. I saw what that meant. So I went back and got a GED. Then I went to college and I was a 4.0 student in communications. But I did it in my own time. And I think that's what's most important. I was a little disappointed when Kari dropped out of high school, but it wasn't my place to tell him that he had to go back. Because if he wasn't learning anything, if it wasn't suiting him, if he wasn't getting from it what he needed, then it didn't matter. So I could force him to go back, but why? He wouldn't have absorbed anything. Again, it's more important that you know how to think instead of being told what to think. Look, with that in mind, I've gone on long enough. Just, wow. The old man was just ahead of his time. He really was. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Like, it just comes to me in these flashes. I get it. The man was brilliant. And I hope that I'm half as brilliant as he was. I like to think I've surpassed him the same way I think Kari will surpass me. Because, again, I'm letting him think for himself. I don't do it for the cookie. I just do it because it needs to be done.